So John, let's start over. So
Yeah.
if you could tell everybody and kind of give them kind of a insight into how you started in the business.
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
just start over from scratch.
So I've been in the industry for over 22 years, a little over 22 years. I started out in the mortgage industry, like I said, kind of on a fluke. I was working for Enterprise Lease Services. I was leasing vehicles. I saw a PT Cruiser going down the road. It had a big mortgage sign on the side of it. I tracked the gentleman down, found out who the owner was, and I stalked him for about 6 months. Sold him, I think, 10 more PT Cruisers, and he said, "Man, you are definitely persistent. And how would you like to work in the mortgage industry and make $10,000 a month?" Right? And at that point in my life, $10,000 was a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
So he was a great guy, still a mentor to this day. Owned a small mom and pop shop and taught me from the ground up. Taught me how to build a file, how to process, how to underwrite a file, how to know the guidelines. Because at that point, and in that time, everything was almost handwritten, right? You had to go in and look at the Fannie guidelines. You had to actually, you had to look through books.
Yeah. Right.
So that's how I started, and then from there,
how big was a cell phone back then?
Yeah.
You had to wear it on your back.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, I paid $20,000 for the cell phone. Anyhow, but then I started working for Chase. So Chase approached me, and I went into the federal institutional lending of the world, and I learned a lot about that and how that works, and all the red tape and all the overlying guidelines that you have in federal lending. And I was very lucky and blessed enough to have an in-house relationship with a small mom and pop real estate company down in downtown Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And I was an in-house lender, and a gentleman, won't mention his name, but he was with Countrywide, and he was a $1 billion producer at that point, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Walked into the office and said, "Hey, you can either come work for me, or I'm going to take this office from you," in so many words.
Really?
So I met with this gentleman, scared out of my wits, because I'm as green as they can be. And lo and behold, I work with Countrywide. And that's kind of probably where we met.
Yeah, we're fellow Countrywiders.
We're fellow Countrywiders.
Yep.
I learned a lot. He did not give me really much direction other than, "Hey, go out on the weekend, every weekend, with a little bag, with a flyer, with a bottle of water, and a payday candy bar." And I would go out every weekend to open houses, and eventually I became the payday man. So I would walk into the door, and the agents would go, "Hey, payday!" And before you know it, they were handing me files. And I did that every weekend for I don't know how many years now. So that is kind of how I got started.
I love it. I didn't know that you were the payday man.
I was the payday guy.
That is excellent.
Me. Yeah, payday candy bar. So it was kind of for me, it was kind of a hook, right? We didn't really have social media back then. It was, how can I separate myself? How can every time I come into an open house, how are they going to remember me? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so the payday were part of it, but just in terms of that, when you were out there hustling and you're out there going to open houses, were there things early on that you would, just walk into those open houses and like having an agent, like how would you start that conversation just out of the blue? You walk into the house and there's the agent. Do you just give them the candy bar, or do you like?
Well, it was more know your audience, right? Yeah. So knowing what type of market you're walking into. I mean, Huntington Beach at the time, we're well over $1 million now in HB Anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Back then it was a little more affordable. So it was just striking up a conversation, introducing myself, letting them know about the team that we have at Countrywide, how quickly we can get a loan closed. And at that point, there were the fast and easy 100% financing loans, right? So this was not exactly rocket science.
Yeah.
So it was much more about building a relationship. But I think, today is still about building a relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's knowing your audience, who you're talking to.
So if you transition kind of from where you started, so you get in the business 20 plus years ago, you're the payday guy. Yep. Here we are today. We're in November 2021 happens. Yeah. Rates, we had this great COVID run, and we've pretty much had a great run almost, I'd say, since 2013. Now we get into like 2021. And this is what I was mentioning as we started the podcast, because one of the things that I've always noticed about John is that, he mentioned the word persistence, when that's how he got in the business. And that's what somebody noticed about him, when he first got in the business, and that's how he got hooked. Well, that persistence, and I actually just say, like, he's a grinder. Like, at the end of the day, like, that persistence, he's constantly grinding. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure we touched on today is, like, so if you transition now into, like, today's world, right? It almost seems like that persistence and that grinding after November 21 is what, is kind of what everybody needs. So maybe if you kind of touch into kind of like how you transition from that early loan officer, and then how you kind of maybe use those tools over the last couple of years to kind of keep things rocking.
Well, I think like a lot of people, I kind of made the mistake when we got stuck in the COVID world. I had a lot of clients at this point. I've been in the business for a long time. So I had a very good portfolio of folks that were calling me for refinances. Mm-hmm. And it was all day refinance, right? And what I did not do is keep in touch with the agents. I really didn't, right? We had purchase money coming in too, but I wasn't actively going back out there to originate.
Yeah.
And out of sight, out of mind. So we know what happened when the refinance boom went away. Now it's back to origination. It's kind of, for me, I think about every day, it's kind of like I'm starting over. I fire myself every month. Kind of a stressful way to live, but that's the truth. And that's my company, right? So if I don't have enough business coming in, if I fire myself every month, I've got to keep originating. And to originate, I've got to be out there meeting with agents, or I've got to be on the phone meeting with agents.
Yeah.
Just picking up the phone, right?
Yeah.
And talking to the agents about something that's going to bring some type of benefit to them, other than just saying, hey, here's an interest rate.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I've got the best rates in town and I can close your loan in 20 days. Everyone should be able to close the loan in 20 days.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about building a relationship and bringing something to the table to help benefit them to build their business.
So when you talk about bringing things that benefit them, can you dive into that a little bit? Like where have you been able to find, those areas of benefit? Because I really think that what a lot of loan officers struggle with today is they kind of default into what you just said, right? They want to go out. I just had this conversation yesterday with a loan officer where we're out there and they're going to lead with whether it's a flyer, whether it's a product, whether it's a close in 20 days, right? And in fact, we're like, look, at the end of the day, you can send out as many flyers as you want. You can send out as many text messages as you want. But unless you're having conversations of where you're really understanding about how to bring value to whoever it is, whether it's a realtor, estate planning attorney, advisor, right? You have to be able to have the ability to bring value to the table to get them to listen, because every single loan originator out there, it has access to flyers, has access to, a lot of the stuff. I mean, we do have a couple niches that people don't have, but, they have most of the easy stuff. So if you can maybe kind of touch on some of those harder things that you've really latched onto that have helped you build conversations that you've had a lot of success with, I think our loan officers would really appreciate that.
So I think it's researching, right? So I think a lot of loan officers will just randomly call an agent.
Yeah.
We have the buyer side, we have the listing side. If you have a listing agent, and I hope everyone does this, and I'm sure they do, communication is key with that listing agent, right? So you're already obviously working with the buyer's agent, hopefully.
Right.
The listing agent, it's communication throughout the process. When we get a purchase contract and I'm talking to a listing agent, I let them know. We send out an email that introduces the entire team, what each person's role is on that team. And then my name is on the last list there, but my job is to keep them informed with every milestone that we hit. And I ask them, when we do this, not just closing on time, but when we show you what we can accomplish, can we sit down and talk for 10 or 15 minutes? Mm-hmm. And I ask that 3 or 4 times throughout the entire process. Right? Okay. All the way up to close. And at close, it's, hey, Jim, we closed, outstanding. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna run out to your office and let's have a quick conversation. I don't take no for an answer. I'm just going to show up because they told me 4 other times that they're going to do it. Right?
So that's interesting. So it's not so much. And so for me personally, I've always been trying setting up that formal, maybe that lunch or that coffee. So you're just hey, give me the 10 minutes. I'm coming.
Absolutely.
I know we had a successful transaction.
Yeah.
So now we're going to, I'm just going to no matter what, we're going to sit down, have a face-to-face, and you're going to have to tell me no. So I love that. And again, right. If, for those of you that don't remember the PT Cruiser, right, that was the bomb Toyota. And if you're rocking and selling 10 of them, that's a great example of persistence right there. That's the difference between the guy that might sell 1 PT Cruiser and the guy that's going to sell, 10 PT Cruisers, right? That is, okay, hey, look, I'm showing up anyways to your office to go sell you that versus, hey, can I ask for permission? Can I ask for permission? Can I ask for permission? So I love the concept where, John, you already know you have a successful, you already had the successful transaction. you know that your persona and the things that can bring value. So you're not going to ask for permission. You're just going to go out there and do it. So office or gals, right. Now you go, so let's just take this all the way to the end. So you've had that successful close. You now are in the guy's office and you're, hey, and let's say you're sitting across from them. How are you starting that dialogue?
Well, I tell them all about my family, and then I beg for a loan.
Right.
No, I thank them for their time. I let them know, hey, I really appreciate your time. I know that you're very busy. I wanted to deep dive a little more with you because my job, what I'm here to do, is be a partner with you.
Yep.
We do have one successful transaction. That's outstanding. What can I do to help you today to help build your business? Right. And then I just shut up.
Okay.
Because they love to talk about themselves.
Perfect. Right? And do you see any like consistencies there with realtors on what their answers are? Or
depends on the audience again, okay. Right? Because I try to go in already knowing what the agent is, what they're doing. Are they more on the listing side? Are they buying side? Are they more first-time home buyers? What's their price range? I do research on these guys first,
okay,
and gals,
got it,
to make sure that we can have an educated conversation.
Got it. And then at what point do you see yourself then like opening the door to maybe some areas of value, like on the other products, like we're talking about, like niches and things like that? So you shut up, you're listening, and then are you just sessioning with that person to open doors, or are you floating? Do you wait to take everything in, let them feel good about what they've told you, and then you start feeding them what you want? Or how do you actually weave in a close, so to speak?
So I think it's talking about their goals, right?
Okay.
I mean, they'll once you're sitting down with them, I haven't had one say, hey, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. It's, where do you want to be in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah.
How many more listings do you want? How many more buyers are you trying to bring in? What kind of volume do you want to bring into the team? And from there, you can start talking about different products.
Okay.
Right?
Well, that's interesting. So that's more like you get into kind of actually like asking some strategy questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
But keep in mind, this is a relationship that we already got from the buyer side, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little easier to do that.
Yeah.
But how do you get that first deal if we don't have that purchase? And that's where I think a lot of loan officers right now probably struggle a little bit, because that's more of the cold calling.
Yeah.
Right? But I structure my day that I have one day that I call on what I would call cold calling agents, right? We don't have an open transaction with them. And that's when I can really start talking about products that we really do have that most don't have.
Okay.
Right? Arbor has some really niche products out there. I think in the broker world, they're available, but I think Arbor's done an amazing job to actually capture those products.
Yeah.
We do.
Right.
You do a great job. Right. You give us the information on these products. We have an amazing marketing department that can put a flyer together and do a joint marketing piece, but it's taking that product knowledge and seeing how you can benefit that agent.
So can you give us a specific example? I think, and for those of you that who aren't in the office and have seen it. So John, he really went out and dove into like the ADU product, and he also goes into other niche products. And then he actually leverages those. Once he becomes kind of like the product expert on it, he actually really uses the office environment to either invite agents into where there's hosting a breakfast, or he's going to do that at their office. But I wanted him to specifically touch on just like a couple of maybe niche products and how you took, whether it's like fix and flip or maybe ADUs or maybe the buy before you sell, and like walk us through how that was, you were able to kind of like take that niche and convert.
Well, I had a relationship that it started with one agent, and it's built into a pool of investors, which I'm very blessed and lucky to have, right? Mm-hmm. It did come with work, but it was knowing the agent. I looked at the agent's numbers. We saw that there were short terms, a lot of short terms, right? That they were fixing and flipping their own. They were flipping these properties. We have amazing lenders right now, and I don't know if you want me to mention names.
Absolutely.
Lima Capital is my go-to.
Okay.
Absolutely, for a fix, flip, or a bridge type situation.
Yeah.
And depending again on the market, right? If you're looking at Huntington Beach or you're looking at Newport, you're probably not going to find a lot of guys who are fixing and flipping.
Yeah.
But if you're looking in Landers, Joshua Tree, I know, right? Joshua Tree, Felon, all of these different areas, outskirts of California. It's amazing the amount of loans that I'm doing outside of my world in Orange County.
Yeah.
But that's where the fix and flips are, where you're seeing them. Right?
Interesting.
And then it's calling that agent and having that conversation with them. And most of them right off the bat, I'll always start with, I know you have a relationship, because they do.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed they're going to have a relationship. But what is that relationship doing at this point tell me about the bridge products that you're doing. Because right now you're already telling them, hey, I know what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
You're not just calling saying, hey, this is John Shrum from Arbor Financial, and I'd love to meet with you. It's about what's your positive cash flow on these properties? What type of bridge are you using today? What are the terms of those bridges? And they'll share that information with you.
Okay.
And we have a phenomenal product, like I said, with Lima Capital. Melissa Barone is amazing. And we got our first one done, and then just kind of built from there.
How did you? So I probably speak for a lot of loan officers out there. Like, so how did you? Because I'll just tell you personally, in my experience, like I maybe can count the number of bridge loans and fix and flips on maybe like one finger, maybe two, because I get a lot of calls for those.
Yeah.
But to your point, right? It's almost like if you get the calls for those in maybe like the Newport, Huntington Beach area, they tend to, somebody knows some other private investor that's always going to be able to do it for cheaper.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds to me like you latched on to actually the people that are having success with that product. It sounds like are folks that are real developers, right? Really fix and flippers, right? And the idea, it sounds to me like that fix and flip market is more where you're going to see VRBOs being built, right? 100%. So people are going into, like, to your point, like Joshua Tree. I did a second home purchase in Joshua Tree, which I know was converted into a VRBO. So it wasn't necessarily a fix and flip, but similar to that. But, for us, for loan officers out there, it's hard for us to become experts, right? Especially on the fly. So how did you become an expert on fix and flip? And
I'm an expert by any means, man.
Well, but confident enough, because ultimately, like, if we're out there and you have a loan officer that's looking to say, hey, I want to add this to my deck. Yeah. I want to do more fix and flip or bridge financing.
Sure.
So like did you like just call Lima and work with that account 100%. Executive to really get
100%.
So it's almost like you dove into their guidelines, learned what it could do, and then compared it against what they had
already. What they were already doing. Yeah. And I think you touched on it, right? I had a $6 million construction deal, right? I had a 7.5, right? But they turned right around and went to their bank or their banking relationship or that golfing relationship on the course where the guy gave them 3% on the deals.
Yeah.
So and we spent a lot of time on that. But what I really looked at is those smaller loan amounts or purchase prices, they don't have necessarily that banking relationship.
Right.
Or the brand new fix and flipper, right?
Yeah.
We have product out there that they can do it. Hey, this is the first time I've ever done it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's build a relationship. Let me get you in the door with the first one.
I love that.
And those terms and rates as you go down the road will start improving because we're building a relationship.
Got it.
So it's almost like it's a package.
Yeah.
I'll talk to an investor, I'll talk to that customer and say, hey, now we have a package in place. Yeah. Let's just keep building.
I love that. And I think that is something too, where that business, even though you hear about, the choke and in the supply and in like kind of like the slower housing market and whatnot, it seems like that fix and flip market. In fact, I've got text messages on my phone today from a real estate company basically asking me, because as a broker in California, I'm on whatever sales list they have, and they're like, hey, Ryan, do you have any of these homes that you're looking at? We're looking to fix and flip. Yeah. And so I'm replying to that text. I'm like, no, but I've got a great product. You were using as your lender. So like the reverse selling them.
Yeah. It's also talking about exit strategy, right? So a lot of these, so we say fix and flip, but there's a lot of fix and hold out there too. Like you mentioned, right? So my guys will go in and they'll buy in that area, whatever it be, Joshua Tree or Landers or Palm Springs, and they're going to hold those properties.
Yeah.
Lima and a couple other companies are very good at doing what we call a bridge 13-month. But now you're talking about exit strategy. And you're also talking about positive cash flow. Those are the conversations that these people understand.
Yeah, it takes you from loan officer to like,
how can I cash flow this property for you? What's going to be our next one? What's our exit strategy? How much cash can we pull out to build the next one?
And that's such a good point, because and again, I mean, I'm having a lot of conversations with folks, and when I'm talking marketing on how to market to people, it really is all like it's talking to your audience in the language they understand. So that's what John's saying, right? So he's talking to a fix and flipper. It's like you can't just call an investor and say, hey, I've got this great product. You have to be asking questions in their language that they understand, right? So if you're calling like a CPA, you need to be talking in a language that the CPA understands about, hey, like we're in this like lull period of filing tax returns, do you have any like self-employed like individuals that might be looking to buy investment properties? Those are things like when you talk like self-employed, or you actually put the language together that your target audience understands, they're going to perk up and listen, as opposed to shut you down like every other loan officer. So you had mentioned also that you did a buy before you sell. So I know that's a program that had a lot of traction when the market was super hot. But now it kind of faded away. So can you give us some insight into that product as well, and how you had success with it?
Yep. So that is, I think it's a phenomenal product, and we actually just closed it today. Congratulations. We got our first one closed under me. I don't know how many other ones have been closed. So
where'd you close it?
It was in Long Beach.
Long Beach. And the lender was?
The lender was...
did you go to the loan store, or was it somebody else?
So we did the bridge loan through our bridge folks.
Okay, great.
If you want to mention the name on that. But we did not use the loan store just because we had kind of a gift situation.
Okay.
But Steve, I'm going to get you another loan, I promise, because the loan store is amazing. But that relationship works much better.
Okay.
But that was a product that I looked at and went, wow, if you're reaching out, and any of the loan officers at Arbor or anyone else that's listening, if you're reaching out to listing agents, how amazing it is to be able to go to that listing agent and let them know, because most of them have a buyer that is selling, or a seller that is selling and becoming a buyer.
They need to buy,
right?
Yeah.
So if you can reach out to them and say, if I could show you that they can go in with a 100% non-contingent offer, and I do not have to hit them for that mortgage payment, would that be a benefit to you? In fact, that's what I'm spending my day-to-day doing.
Wow.
Because that's what the buy before you sell product is.
Yeah.
This market is so competitive right now. Outstanding.
So I just need to time out. So I want, if you're out there like watching, right, I want you to just write that script down. So can you one more time? Yeah. They're not gonna. There's a lot of listing agents out there, right? But that one liner right there, which is calling that listing agent. And for any of you, like, I don't know who signed up for MMI. But MMI is pretty rad. Like, I was not a big believer, and now my inbox is like flooding up with all of these notifications because we uploaded my database, and now I get all these notifications of listing agents and agents I've worked with that now have new listings. So you have this opportunity to call on that listing, and then to be able to have that script. What was that again?
I flow by the seat of my pants. No, I just so it's reaching out to that listing agent once again and having that conversation and saying, hey, if I could show you, Tim and Sally are selling this property. Are they purchasing another property? Well, John, they are, whether it's in California or out of state or whatever it may be. If that's the gateway into that conversation, it's then saying, well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. If I could show you that you could go in 100% non-contingent on the next offer.
Right.
And Tim and Sally do not have to close on that property first.
Yeah.
And I could qualify them with absolutely no mortgage debt on that first loan. Would that be a benefit to you?
Yeah. And that's you're running that on the TLS, right?
Yeah.
And then, so that's that right there. And then you ultimately have to get in the conversation and walk them through kind of like the product itself. And
correct. And I got to tell you that our bridge, I want to call them Home Point. It's Home Mike, excuse me. They are very good at having that conversation with the customers.
Really? Okay.
They absolutely are. Yeah. So they come in as a partner.
Okay.
Right? And it is, once you're in that position, it's having the conversation, and it is communication, and it's explaining to the seller that this is what they're doing and how they're going to do it. I think that is a niche product right now that anyone could be on the phone with listing agents and having that conversation.
Well, and that's the thing. And the other thing goes too, is like, it's all about like opportunities at the plate, right? So, a conversation is one swing of the bat, right? And the question in terms of building, if we're out there talking to agents, any referral partners, right? And again, if you're in this mindset where I'm going to send flyers, I'm going to shoot text, or I'm going to make social media posts, that's great because that's building awareness, but that's not building the trust. So you're building, you have the awareness of yourself in the market, but they've got to trust you and like you. And they're only going to be doing that when you have conversations with them. And the question becomes like, how do you generate multiple conversations to where somebody, through your voice inflection, through your knowledge, and your like, the person's gonna be like, wow, this person knows what they're talking about. Wow, this person has something of value for me. I'm going to actually give this person an opportunity because I trust them, or I want to give them, they sound like they know more than my current guy. Because ultimately, you got to win that relationship with more trust and more likability than whoever they're using now. And that's just not going to happen on a flyer. It's not going to happen on a text. It's not going to happen on a post, right? You've got to go out there. You got to fight. You got to win. It's almost like, I don't want to use, but it's like you got to win the boyfriend, win the girlfriend. You got to kind of steal them away from whoever they're dating right now, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's like. So so this is awesome. And then, I just wanted to like pivot maybe into a different like line of thinking, or just a different piece of the conversation in that, so you've obviously been at Arbor now for, I think, a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
You mentioned the marketing department. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how you leverage the marketing department and what you're asking for, and maybe some success you've had there?
I think we've got a good group of loan officers, as you know, that we all we meet and talk together. And this is open for anybody. I mean, anytime we have a new product or we have something come across from one of our lenders with some type of niche, it's very simple to reach out to the marketing department and say, hey, can we have a flyer put together on this?
Yeah.
They check it, make sure it's compliant, make sure everything's ready to go, and then you have another flyer. Flyers are great. Like you said, it's good to get that out, social media, send it to the agent, but that's just a way for your face to be known, right? And to say, hey, I've got these niche items that not necessarily every broker has.
You're right. And the importance, I don't want to say that sending, like, there's no importance to having the flyers and the test, because ultimately you have to build the awareness, right? So it makes it, they have to be able to see you, kind of have some understanding of who you are in the market, which makes it a lot easier than to actually have that phone call. So you're going out and, like, on these products, for example, whether it's fix and flip or the buy as you sell, you are going out to the marketing department, you're asking for basically your custom flyers.
Correct.
And then that's kind of like your pathway into your relationships.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, because we can do those. I think the key here is the joint marketing piece, right? So now I'm making that relationship sticky with that listing agent.
Got it.
If it's something that they want to advertise to their market, to their customers, then we can do a joint marketing piece on the buy before you sell.
Got it.
Post that on social media, all the places that you want to put it. So
I love that. And so, we started a little bit late. That's why we're running a little bit over. So we're going to go probably for another, 5 minutes here. So for anybody that had a 10:30 hard stop, I understand we do record this. It'll be posted in Spotify and YouTube. So if you do have to jump off, that's okay. I heard you talk about your team, right?
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through like how you built your team and like how that structure is, and kind of like the pros and cons of your, positives and struggles of building a team, and kind of where you're at now?
So, I mean, I'm a firm believer you're only as good as your team, right? Because if you're a loan officer and all you're doing all day is chasing conditions and checking on conditions and waiting for underwriting approvals, if you're doing that, when are you originating? And I think we've all been through that. I've absolutely been through it, where I have the ebb and flows, right? Where I get stuck in this pipeline, and that's all I'm doing is just babysitting.
You feel busy by check. I had such a hard day.
I had such a hard day.
I was calling and following up on all this stuff.
On all these things. So I try to set my day, because I am kind of a control freak. That's one of my character defects, I guess.
I call it a grinder.
So what I try to do is I set my day on Mondays. I follow up with all existing customers that we have in the pipeline, just to touch base, just to say hi. And then on Tuesdays, I am reaching out to the buyer's agents. On Wednesdays, I'm reaching out to listing agents that I'm marketing to or that I'm trying to bring on.
Okay.
On Thursday, I do a slide broadcast on some type of product that we have that goes out every Thursday.
Yeah. So slide broadcast, for those of you that don't know, that's a third-party app. We don't have it at Arbor, but that's basically a voicemail drop platform. So, okay.
Yeah. So that goes out. I do a slide broadcast to all my past clients in the entire database.
Awesome.
And I send it out to all the listing or not listing or just agents that I have in that slide broadcast. But the team, I have a team in place that I know that I trust that they can do the jobs that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. I have the loan assistant who is making sure applications are coming in, that they're full and they're ready to go. So I can do a loan proposal, and I am still old school that way. I price everything myself. I send out every loan proposal myself.
Yeah.
I send a loan proposal to a customer and I contact them and we go over it right then and there.
Well, you're still the face of the, you're the
You're
face
still
of
the
the
face.
company.
You absolutely have to be the face, right? So the email goes out, it explains very clearly what each team member's role is. Mm-hmm. So they know who to contact, right? And this is going out to the listing, the buyer's agent. There's an email that goes out to our customer as well. There's an email that goes out to operations, right? Yeah. To escrow, title, and all that information. So it's key. You have to have processors that know what they're doing. Yep. You have to have a loan assistant. I think if you're trying to build your business, which I'm always trying to build my business. I mean, I would love to do a lot more than I did the year before, right? Because that's going to help everyone. Everyone benefits. Yeah. It's making sure that these people that are in these roles can do their jobs. Yeah. Right. And I have 2 amazing processors that have been in the industry for a long, long time. They know how to underwrite a file. Yeah. I think that's key as well. They can underwrite that thing before it even goes in. And then, we can have an in-depth conversation about that file, making sure that everything is good to go, hopefully at the very beginning, and you don't run into the roadblocks down the road. Yeah. So, yeah.
One of the things, and I just hope that the folks that are on the call pick up on is, I've heard John use the word originating throughout the podcast, right? And so, originating, and this is from previous podcasts as well. I think it was Jay Rodriguez who used the word databasing, right? And these are words that are action words, right? They're verbs, right? So, it's not that I'm an originator. It's not that I have a database. It's that I'm databasing. It's that I'm originating. It's that I'm doing, right? And I think that that really is a common thread between top producing and high producing loan officers is that, there isn't any time to be idle, right? It's almost like, I love hearing the word like I'm originating, right? Meaning like, and I love the concept of firing myself. You fire yourself every month because that's kind of the nature of the beast when you're a commission only salesperson, right? It's like you start at 0 every month, right? So we've got to go out and,
hopefully the pipeline's not starting at 0 every month. But
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's with the team in place, I think, and anyone can build that. It's fairly simple to do. Hopefully you just find the right people, and that gives you the time to do what you're really here to do, and that's to do loans, right? Yeah. And not just to do loans, put people in homes. Yeah.
And so in terms of just going back, like you were, I want to go back into how you actually came to Arbor, right? So I wanted to get to the meat first, but so you were, can you just, what like brought you to Arbor, and then maybe just a couple things about your experience so far and how you're feeling about the company.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was correspondent for a long time, right? I was retail, if you want to call it that, but it was mid-level correspondent lending is what it was, and I wore the tie and the suit every day, and I had my blinders on, and this is what we can do, and had product knowledge, but figured that's the only product that's out there. You put your blinders on. And John Goodpasture, who I've known for many years, reached out to me several times. And honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, but it finally came down to show me what you made last year on the loans that you closed, and let me compare it to where we would be today. Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of came down to
economics. I mean,
it was economics. It was economics.
And you can't feel there. Hey, look.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
He can't. There's no reason to be coy on that, right? I mean, here's the deal. Like, I mean, again, what we do, we're not here to say it's all about money. But look, I mean, if you're doing the same thing and somebody's doing the same thing as you, and they're making more money doing it, that's
absolutely.
It's worth taking a look. So that there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that.
No shame. And then I started looking, and almost 70% of my pipeline, I was contacting John to say, hey, I can't do these loans, right? Wow. Yeah. So, but that was because that was the world that I was living in. And again, I had my blinders on. I thought, there's no way you guys can do that type of loan. What do you mean it closed? No way, man. That's awesome. And that, that opened my eyes, and I haven't looked back since. Awesome. I wish I would have made the move, 10 years ago. Yeah. So, but woulda, shoulda, coulda, can't live in the past.
That's all right. So, well, hopefully, we're at our time, and I just want to say thank you, dude, for taking the time. And
absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to give you a parting gift of a new microphone for your laptop.
I'm going to get us out. I promise.
But anyways, I hope, it again, like I hope that for the loan officers that are on the call, and for anybody that's watching that has watched this, that you got some tools out of it. You got some, some pieces there. If I was going to hang on to a couple things that John has said over the last, 30 minutes, one is that it's originating, is a verb, right? And the concept of firing yourself, and then also just, calling that listing agent, and that not asking for permission, right? I feel like, to go out there and you've already performed at the highest level and done what you're supposed to do on that loan. Don't ask for permission to get in front of that person. Just go there and do it, right? I think that is that. And what are they going to do? Say no, kick you out? Like, anyway.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
anyways, thank you so much, buddy.
All right, brother.
That was awesome.